Well, thank you everyone for joining today, whether it's your afternoon or it's your morning or evening. I'm Benjamin Rietti from eTabs, and we've been looking today at some cutting edge innovations in automated reporting and charting. A little bit of background about eTabs then. eTabs is the acknowledged leader for the market research industry when it comes to data visualization, online dashboards, and automated reporting. That's our baby. That's our true area of expertise. And over the years, we've won a number of awards, both from within the industry as well as the Queen's Award for Enterprise, which was a very prestigious award to win, and got to meet Her Majesty at Buckingham Palace. And that was great and a very big privilege. We are UK based. My accent may have given that away. We also have teams across the globe in Europe, North America, and Auckland in New Zealand. And this way, we're able to provide support and service to our clients across the globe in their time zone when they need it most. And that's critical. What are we going to look at today? So we're looking at automatically generated charts versus fully client-ready reports. What are those differences? You might already think, I'm getting automated charts. Could you be getting something better? We're going to look at automating any project type, trackers, multi-market studies, even ad hoc projects, where you may think there's little value or little opportunity to automate. We're going to look at how we've moved on from just being able to automate PowerPoint and now able to automate Google Slides, Google Sheets, and more. We're going to look at dynamically generated editable outputs from PowerBI and Tableau and any other sort of online dashboard systems. So very often there are limitations with that in third-party dashboard solutions. It's important to realize that there's so much more that can be done with the right tool than just, say, using an Excel macro to run off lots of charts. Macros are there for automation. Perhaps also an online analysis tool that offers rendering of those analyses into simple PowerPoint charts. What we're talking about today is automating client-ready reports with every level of detail fully automated. Nowadays, getting charts generated is fairly common and often taken for granted, but most options on the market aren't, in fact, that flexible, and you may be settling for a lot less than is possible. They're either presented to you as a series of images that can't be edited, or you're somewhat limited with chart types, the number of objects on a slide, or restricted when handling changing conditions in a project. The optimum solution for automated market research and insights reporting should be able to handle variance in trackers or multi-market studies, different brands, numbers of brands, want to show or calculate significance and stat testing, deal with low base conditions, and even write condition-based analysis text automatically. We want to be able to handle bringing in brand logos and placement of indicators, again, automatically. If the solution can natively understand the actual language of market research data and the industry's reporting needs, then so much more detail can in fact be automated. Let's have a look at our approach to flexible automation. I'll explain the concept. Our starting point would be data tabulations, SPSS, SAV files, Excel typically, outputs from many of the general analysis tools that are out there, Q, Quantum, and so on. That's our starting point, and we can take any number of those source files. And we work, more importantly, from the actual template itself. So that means we're not creating a chart deck. We're not creating or forcing you to use these options of charts or those options of layout or these backgrounds. We basically say you can use your template. So that means you've designed it already in PowerPoint, in Google, And of course, it's got all your branding or clients' brandings. It's got all the layout, the types of charts that you want, and all the formatting. It's all in there already. We don't want you to have to repeat setting that up. So you've got that as your starting point. And then our job, using our software, is to pull in the data from the sources to the actual. And that's what happens. It's a bit like mail merge in Word, where you've got the same letter you want to send out to 50 friends saying that you're neighbors, you're saying you're throwing a barbecue. And you want to personalize those letters. So you have an Excel file with all your contacts, your names and addresses, and you'll do the template, perhaps in Word, all written up nicely, a few little pictures perhaps, and you put in dear first name, salutation, address block, and then the merge system within Word will pull those names and addresses into your letter template and generate you 50 personalized letters. Same principle. So we're starting from a template in PowerPoint, in Google, even Excel, Word, Sheets, and so on. We're taking your data from any number of source files and then merging that data as needed appropriately for each of the objects on each of the slides. So I hope that makes sense so far. Let's have a look at an example of this in motion. So we're going to take a look at automating the most common of deliverables, that's PowerPoint first, and then we'll see the similar idea going into Google Slides as well. Here we go. This is a multi-market project which is going to generate several outputs in the deck. Here you can see the template I'm showing you. Inside that template, you can see there's slides there, but there's no sort of data. So clicking Run now. And what's happening is it's accessing the data file containing all the different countries of data. And it's populating, as you're beginning to see. It's going to bring brand logos in. It's generating 3 different countries of data. You can see the flags going in. You can see we're looking at the main car, Ford, and then its top 3 competitors in each of those markets. This is all fictitious data. So that's done in France. Moving on, and we can see Germany being populated. And what's nice about this example is there are some subtle differences between the countries, other than the flags, obviously, but of course the competitors to the main brand will change from country to country. And so it's going to be bringing in conditionally different flags, different brand logos, and placing them into the slides. And now finally, it's going to run the Italy output. And it's populating every object on the slides, the charts, the summary tables, the images, as you can see, indicators to show significance, placing circles around key values and the like. So we can literally populate anything on a slide. No limit to the number of objects or complexity of the deck. Let's just finishing off now. Just going to open up the 3 outputs in one go and then sort of compare them side by side so you can see the subtle differences between them. So we've got France, Italy. You can see there the different colors of different brands, different brand names, of course, and the flags on each of the slides. And all these charts are still fully editable, so you can make changes. They're not images, they're pure PowerPoint charts. You can see conditional coloring, conditional formatting that has gone into there as well. Those are now ready to give to the client, or for you to add your own analysis yourselves to that. Okay, so that's PowerPoint, and it traditionally can be the same approach whether it's PowerPoint, Excel, or Word. And we can also then take those outputs and go straight to PDF if that's what the client or stakeholder requires. Great, we've been automating Office for a good number of years now. But now we're seeing Google Slides and Google Sheets appearing more regularly as mandated deliverables. As anyone who's had the pleasure will testify, it's actually quite challenging preparing chart-heavy presentations in Google. Very, very time-consuming and frustrating. But that's all changing now. In a first for the industry, we're proud to announce automating Google Slides is, in fact, possible. Here's an example of a template in Slides. And we see the transformation from empty, templated slides to populated charts with conditional colors, automated generation of insight, conditional text, ranking, aligning indicators. Just flipping back and forth so you can see that on your screen. In this example, we're showing conditional formatting, a bit like a heat map effect. So all the cells are colored based on their value. We're seeing advanced sorting going on, pulling in brand logos and the flags. Those can actually be pulled from a slide itself, in Slides, or even from Google Drive, if that's where the files, the image files are held in your case. And here we're showing how the same slide can be replicated multiple times. So we're seeing it for 3 different markets. So we're only needing to set up, let's say, one slide or one template, like we had in the previous example with the cars, the Ford project. So here also, we've got the one slide and automatically replicating it across a global France and Australian market, showing NPS scores and so on. If you're still hand posting numbers into PowerPoint decks or Google Slides, then now's certainly the best time to invest in automated charting and reporting. No matter what quantitative project type you're doing, your low-hanging fruit will definitely be the trackers or multi-market projects, where there's a fairly consistent template which can be auto-populated. Our belief, however, is that we should always be on the lookout for automating wherever possible. Automation doesn't have to mean all or nothing. So even if you have a tracker with variance, where some questions change over time, or a multi-market project where the brands themselves or the number of brands may fluctuate between markets, it's always worth automating as much as possible. We love the challenge of dealing with change, so please challenge us. Attune yourself to be on the lookout for opportunities. Maybe adjust your concept, ad, or copy test template so it can be more cookie cutter in its approach. Consider adding value to a syndicated study where, for very little extra effort, each subscriber can get a deck that's tailored to their branding or pays attention to their brand over the other brands colored. Like I mentioned earlier, it's those small things that can make all the difference to a relationship. So invest more today and hopefully you'll secure the client or project for tomorrow. What about ad hoc projects? So I'm often asked if there's any mileage to be gained with auto charting a purely ad hoc project. Of course, the whole principle of automation is to take a process that's repeated by definition and find a way to automate those repetitive tasks. But a project that's ad hoc isn't something that's necessarily templated. Yes, you may have a standard background to your project, but it won't necessarily, you're not going to have the same slides, same charts and everything else in there. However, being that I believe so strongly in applying automation wherever possible, I like to take a step back and analyze any deliverable. For instance, are there patterns in the slides? The same set of slides repeated perhaps across categories? Or would it help the researcher if they could start their reporting with a pre-processed, automatically generated chart deck that's been over-charted, and then they could cherry pick the ones they want to use for their story and write the commentary as they go along. Regardless of project types, there are 2 other strategic benefits to invest in automated charting. The first being accuracy. So even if we're not talking about completely hands-free reporting, the fact that you can be confident with data being pulled into your charts directly from your data tables is huge. And finally, an incredible yet often overlooked benefit of automation is that projects can be set up on interim or dummy data. even ad hoc. And therefore, when the final data is released, you can just update an entire deck of slides within minutes. And that's great when you know you'll be up against the clock to deliver accurate reports to a client under pressure. I also sometimes call this the insurance policy, protecting you against those awkward moments when you spent an entire night, perhaps, keying in numbers by hand for a client presentation the next morning, only to discover an email from DP saying, "Oh, sorry, I used the wrong weighting. Please use this file instead." Of course, this has never happened before, but it's good to be prepared. What we're also able to do now is expand your method of visualization. So not just your standard PowerPoint charts, chart types, and so on, but also infographics. So we can drive data into, and here's some examples on the screen, into these types of infographics, whether it's automatically sizing objects proportionally to the value, or filling them proportionately with color, or repeating them. Maps, for example, or other images that are filled with color for different regions within the map, within the image, based on value. Word clouds, picture graphs, and so on. So we can literally pull data into these automatically in exactly the same way as we do with traditional charts. The bottom line, how can investing in innovation and innovative reporting translate into profit? Overriding everything, proactively invest in your reporting capabilities. Innovating could well make the difference between keeping or losing a client or project, as I mentioned, or the difference between becoming stale in a client's eyes or making tangible changes that will be mutually beneficial and promote you to being seen as their partner rather than just another supplier. You can leverage technology to reduce the cost of reporting. Once the headache and the onus of reporting is transferred from your fingers, you'll have both the time and the headspace to utilize your analytical skills to dig for additional and more deeper insights. You'll be able to seize new, tangible revenue generating opportunities. For example, if fieldwork is monthly, but reporting was only just about manageable and deliverable quarterly, so now you consider automated charting and offer monthly reporting for very little extra effort, quite literally. And if that offer doesn't go down well with your client, quite frankly, I'd be shocked. Manual reporting not only costs you valuable time, but it's prone to error. By reporting directly from the source data itself, you're reducing the chance for those inevitable human typos and inaccuracies. You and your client will have more confidence in the data being reported. Smaller companies in particular can begin to consider pitching on larger, more complex projects that they would otherwise never have even attempted due to lack of resources. Especially now, sort of coming out of COVID, where many staff may have been let go or restructured or furloughed, and you need the resources to now get those decks done. Automation can really make that happen quite quickly. And with the cost of reporting reduced and new channels for revenue generation, your profit margins can be increased. I mentioned earlier on, right at the beginning, about the third key area that we're going to explore, and that is we're now developing the ability to hook our automation onto third-party dashboards, for example, Tableau or Power BI. And essentially what you can do is get them to use our automation to generate editable decks, PowerPoint, Google Decks at the end. Because at the moment, Power BI and Tableau don't have any plans really to give you editable PowerPoint outputs. But a lot of users within the market research industry would like to be able to get that from those BI tools. So we've extended our capabilities to literally be able to do that. Make a version of that dashboard in PowerPoint that's then automatically updated each time somebody wants an updated output from their dashboard. So feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to talk about that for you as well. So in summary then, and we'll come on to questions in a moment, automation has many strategic benefits. It gives you the chance to add value to what you're doing now. You can do it better and you can do more of it. Excuse me. It gives you ways to generate more revenue and maintain or grow profits. It strengthens your client relationships. You'll be partnering with your client and moving ahead rather than just doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And finally, even staff appreciate it. Instead of exercising their fingers hand posting, they can exercise their minds, and it's less stressful too. Their increased job satisfaction will translate into a happier team and company. That's it from the presentation point of view. Thank you for your time today. I hope you found this presentation helpful and thought-provoking. Please feel free to reach out for any advice and, like I said, challenge us. You can now ask any questions you like in the chat box, and I'll be happy to answer those questions as they come in. Please stay safe and well, and over to you. Questions, please. Okay, first question. Can you securely distribute the presentations to multiple people? I think I understand that question. So basically, yes, within Enterprise, what you can do is, let's say you're generating, I don't know, 1,000 store reports from a single template. What you can do is you can input the email addresses, names, let's say from an Excel file, and then automatically send out the each person, each store manager, let's say, their report, their output. That could, for example, be attached as a PDF as it goes out. So yes, that could be automated as well. You don't have to use the automated email, but you can. How do you deal with stat testing? Good question. Two different ways. You could either be pulling stat testing that you already have, maybe that's in your tables. So the different columns are labeled ABC and so on. So we can pull those notations into the automation process and then show them on the charts, show them in the tables as the ABCs. We can even remap. So let's say you're pulling in columns DEF, but you want to show it on your slide as ABC, remap the stat testing. Or the other way we deal with stat testing is the stat testing is actually done in our software. So there are many cases, particularly with sort of ongoing studies, you may not find it easy to do stat testing in the tables themselves, but we can use your preferred formula for stat testing and do that in the automation, and then show it however you like, whether it's indicators, arrows, squares, traffic lights, you name it. Oh, lots of questions here. Is there a limit for the number of charts objects on the slide, or is it just like one chart per slide? No, so you can literally use an existing template. If your template has, I don't know, 6 KPIs, 10 KPIs, a whole mixture of different objects on it, we can automate each and every object. We don't put any limits whatsoever in the layout of your slides. Next question: can I pull data from Google Sheets, or is it just Excel? Yes, you can actually. We've just released that capability about 3 weeks ago, where you can read from Google Sheets as an input in the same way as we're able to pull from SPSS files or Excel and so on. Oh, here's a nice one. Can you automate Apple Keynote? So we get asked this question every now and then. Keynote itself, we don't automate, but what we can do is we can take a Keynote presentation, automate it in PowerPoint, and then send it back to your Keynote. So effectively, your deliverable will still be Keynote. The automation itself will be happening in PowerPoint. Time for a few more questions. How does your handling of Google Slides just importing a PowerPoint file? Right. So fundamentally, you can import a PowerPoint file to Google, but Google messes it up often. The layout all changes, but more importantly, any charts you had in PowerPoint, they go into Google as images, and therefore they can no longer be edited. They can't be adjusted in any way. You're stuck with an image of a chart. That's not good enough. So when we do the automation on Google, we are literally taking Google objects, Google charts, and populating them and leaving them as Google charts in exactly the same way as we do with PowerPoint, and giving you editable PowerPoint charts. Can you mix tables and charts on the same slide? Yes, you can. Again, no limit to all those objects you can include on a slide. In PowerPoint, in Google, same thing. Oh, here's a nice one. Is there any flexibility in automation? I assume that you're asking from a point of view of if anything changes. So yes, that flexibility is there, and especially if you can preempt change across time. If we talk about a tracker, let's say, you can build the automation project at the outset to handle potential change over time. If it's a multi-market project, like I said before, you can build it up so that it can handle variance between markets, between different cuts of the project. So yes, there is flexibility. Of course, the more you can build up with automation up front to, like I said, to anticipate potential change, the better. But it's very different from the macro approach that I mentioned before, because the macros, once you write a macro, it's sort of stuck in stone and you can't really make any changes. You'd have to redo the whole macro, and if the person who wrote the macro is no longer with the company or is off sick or not available, you're stuck. So the macro approach is great because it does automation, but it's not flexible. Whereas this approach of sort of separating the template and separating the source data is much, much more flexible. A couple of questions came in. Can I get an email to review pricing? Yes, absolutely. Happy to talk about pricing, but we'll do that offline. How time and skills consuming is report template creation? So great question. It's not that time consuming at all. Let's say that, but again, the power of automation is, let's call it long term versus short term. So let's say the first time round it's a tracker. Let's say it might take a couple of days to set that up first time, but then you're going to run the same tracker next month, next quarter. It'll populate in less than a couple of minutes normally. So huge time savings. You saw the example here with the multi-market project where there was one master template and it spawned off 3 different countries. So you're investing that time up front in the setup, but you're reaping huge benefits as soon as you need to repopulate it. And we're happy to sort of do an example with you if you like, looking at one of your own projects, and we can do a comparison of that. What is the typical time commitment to set up a template? Assume a 50-slide deck as an example. So there's 50 slides and there's 50 slides. You could have 50 slides where it's this 50 all very different slides, all with complex requirements, or you could have a 50-slide deck where it's a couple of slides repeated, let's say 25 times. 25 times 2 equals 50. So we'd have to look at it first to be able to say, oh, well, that's just repeating the same slides over and over, and therefore that will be set up in a couple of hours, or it is 50 very different slides and it might take you a day or so to set up first time round. Then again, you'll have huge savings going forward each time you repeat that deck. So we're coming to the end of the sort of 30 minutes. If anyone else has questions, please shoot them through now. Otherwise, please feel free to reach out to me or look at our website. This webinar has been recorded, so we can make that available to you as well if you want to share that with any colleagues. Well, thank you very much for joining us today and giving us your time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and look forward to being in touch. Take care.